Hello and welcome to the latest video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout as we look ahead to Fantasy Premier League Game Week 12. We'll do this via the goals and assists imminent tables, which use the Fantasy Football Scout members area stats to try and predict future returns. Today we'll see how last week's tables did, and unlike everyone else's game week, our tables actually did okay. We'll also reveal who's on the latest tables ahead of the weekend. Plus, after an atrocious week for many, it's good to not overreact and overcomplicate things. And what better way than to simply look at who the best strikers in the game are to get you points. And in addition, we'll take any questions you have at the end of the stream. So have a think about those and post your questions in the live chat at the end. My name is Joe, and joining me to unearth some of those under the radar gems and remember who the top strikers are is Tom Freeman, Fantasy Football Scout's Deputy Editor. Tom, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, thanks, Joe. Pretty disastrous game week, wasn't it? But yeah. I think I ended up on 21 points, which was bad. I've seen worse, but I didn't see many scores over the kind of 35-point mark. So if you did, well done. But yeah, it's hard to think of too many worse game weeks, to be honest. In my time playing FPL,
a bad game week for every manager is the one where they have that week like that and everyone else doesn't. So this week I didn't actually think it was that bad because everyone did badly. So
yeah, exactly. We're all in the same boat, aren't we?
26 points, but that was a small red arrow. So I'm still 200k something in the world.
Yes, it's still doing well, but it's just when we look back on it, I mean, we'll do a separate team reveal video out, which will follow this. But when we were looking at our teams last week, we were pretty positive going into the game week 11. Haaland at home to Bournemouth, Salah at Luton, and it just, I mean, everything. I think I got one return from Mark Gahey, and that was it. But let's not dwell on it too much. Let's look ahead to game week 12.
I was out on Saturday afternoon. I was watching Yeovil in the FA Cup. The first round of the FA Cup has started. A lot of people from around the world might not know that yet because they think it maybe starts in January. But Yeovil beat Gateshead, who are a division above them, 3-2 in a thriller at Hewish Park, who are looking great at the moment. Yeovil is so I shall be going again soon because they have got some good players now. Got a Northern Ireland international, Smith, playing for them somehow in Conference League South.
I did notice it was on at the weekend because there was some coverage on the BBC covering some of the fixtures there. Yeah. So, like you say, we kind of sometimes think it starts in January when the third round kicks in, but it's all going on now.
Yeah, definitely. So, Yeovil face Disney's Wrexham next up in round 2 of the Cup. And I will be travelling to Cheltenham next weekend to see them take on Wigan in League One. As my tour of the lower leagues of the West Country continues, because I live so far from my team, Brighton. Okay, let's move on and welcome those who are joining us in the live chat early. Thanks a lot to G Wiz, Joshua, Ronnie, FPL Bateman, Brian, Kieran, Gary, Gold FPL, Charlie, Scott, Woodstock, and many more. Thanks so much for joining us. Do remember to press that like button, irrespective of whether you like it or not. Just press it. And also remember to subscribe so you can keep up to date with all our videos and podcasts throughout the week. Lots of good stuff already taking place. Scoutcast was last night, and we got many more videos and podcasts throughout the week. Okay, let's have a look how we got on at our goals imminent table last week. Quite a few blanks, as you would expect in this horror week. Richarlison blank, Zaniola blank because he's sharing minutes with Bailey by the looks of it. And Nana, Everton blanked again. One day he'll get a return. Morris at Luton, he could have got a return. Liverpool were there for the taking. But then we're getting to this lovely crop of players here. So Bruno Fernandes from Manchester United got the goal pretty much last minute against Fulham. But as we were talking on air, they face Luton at home next. Luton, one of the worst, if not the worst, travelling side at this moment. Bruno Fernandes is actually a captaincy candidate, I think, for Game Week 12. Do you think?
Well, he saw plenty of the ball at the weekend. He obviously left it very late to get the goal. Luton, I find they're a very hard team to work out because we saw at Kenilworth Road on Sunday, how well they played.
Yeah.
They rode their luck at times. Liverpool had quite a few chances, but generally it was a much improved performance compared to what we saw the week before, which was away from home at Villa when they really struggled. So I feel like two different teams at the moment. Now, if you're going to just look at those away stats, then for sure Fernandes is one of the better picks for this week, I think. So, but United, it's still not clicking for them, isn't it?
They could they can go Spursy at any minute, United. So
I mean, I think if I was a Fernandes owner, I think I'd be happy to own him this week as a bit of a differential in a lot of mini leagues and things. Whether or not I'd actually go to the captaincy, I'm not sure. I've quite seen enough from United yet. No.
Okay, Doku is the star here. So I had to spend some time trying to fit in all of his returns. So he got a goal and he got 4 assists as well. One of the highest, I think the second highest individual score this season so far. And one of if you get over 20 points, you're in the all-time greats. You're in the Lampard category. So people will always remember that. If you owned him, well done. We thought he would get returns if he played. It did feel like a Doku kind of game. Bournemouth at home, that a potentially stubborn defence that can be easily unlocked by a very, very fast man on the wing. But do you think Doku's going to play in some of the upcoming games though for Manchester City? Is he worth getting in now?
I think it's quite a difficult one with Doku, and I think we spoke about it last week, Joe, when we said that there's competition for places out wide at the moment. You've got Foden, but you've got Grealish, who obviously came back and played really well in the Manchester derby. And it feels very difficult to predict who's going to get those starts going forward now. He's explosive when he plays. You can see that from the weekend. I'm not quite there with him as a pick, given the competition in our midfields. I'd like to see him get a run of starts first, but I think there's always going to be that doubt in your mind with Doku that he is going to be benched. He's not a first teamer just yet.
No, definitely. And I mean, looking at the fixtures, so Man City have got Chelsea away, then Liverpool, then Tottenham, then Villa away. So in that crop of games, that feels sort of Grealish type games to me.
He likes control in those bigger games, Pep, doesn't he? Which is where you would favour Grealish.
Whereas game week 16, when they have Luton away, I mean, when many of those who haven't got Haaland will be earmarking Haaland to get in, Doku could be the one to get in as well. Then, bearing in mind, Man City do blank in game week 18 though. You're starting to get a bit nearer to that. So do remember that if you want to invest in Doku. But then Crystal Palace at home, that also seems like could be a Doku game. Although Man City, Crystal Palace do have history. So Guardiola's not going to take this lightly, I think.
Yeah, they've caused them problems in the past, haven't they? Yeah. There's a couple of teams like that, Brentford as well. They just seem to kind of run into problems against them. But Doku, I mean, you don't get many more explosive players than him at the moment, but it does feel like a hard one to call at the moment if he's just going to get enough minutes in the next kind of 2 or 3 matches.
Eze, very much a player that we recommended last week if he was fit. He was indeed fit. The team news towards the end of the week came in that he was going to be in the squad. He played. He got an assist, as you would expect from Eze. The fixtures look great from game week 12. Got Everton at home, Luton away, West Ham away, Bournemouth at home. Before it gets tricky, game week 16 with Liverpool and City straight after each other. So I think Eze is a buy now, definitely. I think this is this fixture run you want him in for, and hey presto, he's back going. So I mean, I don't know if he's particularly on your personal radar for your team, but Eze, I mean, a player we'll perhaps be seeing in the scout picks for this week and coming weeks.
Maybe, I think he's a great option. He's been on these tables and we've kept him on them, haven't we, Joe? Because it felt like he was coming back soon. And he came on as a sub at the weekend. I think it was just before the hour mark. Palace, obviously, without him in the team and without Olise, they've adopted this kind of defensive kind of first approach, which has worked. But now he's back into the team. I think we'll see more creativity, more goals. He might be on penalties, Eze. He's on set pieces, and I think he's a brilliant option and differential. And I would get him in now. I think Everton is probably the trickiest match he faces in the next 4. But it's at home, and that run after of Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth, all teams who struggle defending set pieces. I think he's probably one of the best kind of mid-price, cheaper end of the scale, mid-price midfielders you can get now.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on down the list, Norgar from Brentford. He's got some stats, but obviously didn't get anything for us. I think Mbomo is the one that people are going to go for there, attacking wise. And Maddison, to wrap it up, who went off injured in last night's absolutely cavalcade of chaos that was the game with Chelsea. It's hard to know what to predict from that in terms of whether Spurs are going off the ball, but they will be going into their next block of matches without their regular defence, basically. Definitely without Romero for 3 matches, and we don't know the extent of the other injuries. But so without their regular defence, Maddison's injury could keep him out for a while. He could be back this weekend. Richarlison, I was reading just now on Twitter, is going to be set for surgery, and he said now is time for a break. So now he's sort of giving up, which would indicate perhaps why Brennan Johnson was playing last night. So Son fine, Brennan Johnson's playing, Kulusevski finally gave us a return, and we've been talking about him for a while as well. But a lot of their key assets gone, and they're going to keep playing with a high line.
They're going to attack regardless, aren't they?
Yeah.
Even with 9 men last night, they were pretty adventurous. So I don't think, as a Son owner, I'm too concerned. Providing Maddison is fit, if you take him out of that team, I think they lose a large part of that creativity. Add in Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, Richarlison, all of these players who are going to be out. But if Maddison's fit, I think I'd still be confident going into the weekend with Son. He got a chance late in the game last night, had a goal disallowed early on, didn't he? But it'll be interesting to see how they react. Defensively, I think that they're going to struggle a bit more, obviously, with playing Dia, and you'd expect maybe Emerson to play centre-back at the weekend, maybe Højbjerg or something like that, but it's not ideal, is it, at all? No,
definitely. I mean, I've got Porro in my team. I didn't play him this week, which didn't hurt me, but I'm very tempted to play him against Wolves, but now I'm not quite so sure. Without those two centre-backs there, I mean, that's been the appeal, the control that the goalkeeper and those centre-backs have had, and I just feel Wolves are going to score.
Yeah, and Van der Ven, he allows them to play that high line because he's so quick at getting back. If you've got Eric Dia in there, for instance, then it's going to be it's going to change things for them, I think. Yeah. So I wouldn't mind playing Porro because he gets forward, he gets in. We saw him inverting last night when they had 11 players on the pitch. He was getting in some good positions, but it's a bit of a worry maybe long term if they're. I mean, Romero's going to miss 3 games. Van der Ven, it looked pretty serious from what we saw on the TV anyway. But Maddison feels key. If he's fit, then I'd feel more confident going in with Son this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on to the assists imminent table. Similar picture, a few blanks here. The usual names that we're putting up, might get us a return every now and again. But a little block of players as well. So McNeil from Everton didn't get a return, but Everton are looking better at the moment. So that's something we flagged up last week. Ward-Prowse for West Ham. I think it's sort of Bowen or bust really at the moment. Yeah. But Kudos could be an interesting player if he can nail down a star. He certainly looks the business, and people aren't going for Ward-Prowse there. I mean, just to dwell on West Ham a little bit, because their fixtures. I mean, is this pattern likely to continue, do you think, where Bowen is getting returns in every away match and they are looking better when they don't have possession, hence getting returns in away matches? When they're at home and they have more possession, they flounder. So are they a team that are better targeting for tougher matches or away matches?
Yeah, I think they struggle when the initiative is on them to actually take the game to their opponents. But the teams they play next are going to be quite happy sitting in. I don't think that necessarily makes Bowen a bad asset, but I do think they look better on the counter-attack. I mean, Ward-Prowse, I think we said he was a sell last week because we saw him deeper.
Yeah.
They had suspensions at the weekend, so he was deeper again in the pivot with Souček. Yeah. I think he just had one shot and one chance created. I was looking earlier. But you've also got Kudus now who's kind of emerged, who's making a real impact. And I think that he could be a nice alternative to Bowen. Not quite as secure in his minutes, but he kind of feels a bit undroppable right now, the way he's playing. So if he continues performing, but yeah, no, it's a good point on the fixtures. But Forest, I mean, I thought they looked really good against Villa at the weekend defensively anyway. But it's that Burnley match, Burnley away, which you want to hold on to your West Ham midfielder if it's Bowen for and just hope that he can get something there.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Nottingham Forest game, the Areola could be an issue. Forest could score there. And so, West Ham, you would think, would have more of the game, more possession against Nottingham Forest at home. Nottingham Forest probably quite happy to sit back, especially.
That's what they did against us. Yeah, I mean, we had over 70% of the ball possession at the weekend, but we just couldn't break them down. No. Very, very organised, very difficult. Murillo, the new defender, looks excellent. Yeah. So that'll be a tricky one, I think.
So it could be a tricky game for West Ham, considering the way they are home and away at the moment. Eze's next on this. We've already mentioned him, Crystal Palace, but he got that assist, so he actually returned the correct return for us as well. Kulusevski's next. Finally, we've been talking about him a lot. Finally got his goal. Kulusevski is nailed on in that attack, and if we think they are going to carry on attacking, but they may concede, that could also be good news for the bonus for whoever gets returns. So Son, Kulusevski, and now it looks like Brennan Johnson on the left are the key assets there. And Spurs fixtures are okay. And we got Wolves away and then Villa at home. So that could be good for their attack there, Villa at home. And then Man City away, that's tricky. But then they got West Ham and Newcastle and then Nottingham Forest. So it's a mixed bag, but there could be returns if you go for a differential like that. Foden's next. Got a goal, but he was on the bench. As you said, it's the same deal with Doku, really. You can't guarantee the minutes, but he is good, undeniably.
Yeah, I just don't think do we need a second, if you've got Haaland, do you need a second City attacker for this run of fixtures, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs and Villa?
Yeah.
I'm not sure you do. So I'm happy to kind of wait on those City midfielders a bit longer and see how it kind of plays out in the next few weeks. And then for that good run, what was it that kicks off with Luton? I think you said that maybe look at bringing an additional attacker and then.
You mentioned Nottingham Forest against your side, but they obviously face West Ham, who we mentioned as well. Then they got Brighton at home, then Everton at home, Fulham away, Wolves away, and then Tottenham at home. So they're second in the Fantasy Football Scout season ticker for over the next 6 in terms of difficulty. So they've got the second best run. West Ham have got the best run of games over the next 6. So investment in Nottingham Forest wouldn't be out of the question. And those who did last game would have done very well, I think. I mean, we got Gibbs White here, but it possibly wouldn't be Gibbs White. I mean, who would we get in if you wanted to get a Nottingham Forest? Say you're Mark Southerns, who's a Forest fan. You want to get in an FPL asset from Forest for this great run. Who would you get?
Well, previously I would have said Gibbs White, but he's just doesn't seem to be quite at it this season. I've looked at him a few times and it's just not really happening. So I think if you were to look at the midfielders, looking at the game at the weekend, Elanga was the threat against our high line. Hudson-Odoi's out at the moment, but Elanga's cheap. I think he's only like 5 million or something. Yeah. But I think I would probably look for Awoniyi now he's back.
Okay.
Because he's that focal point of the attack, isn't he? Yeah. And he's proved he can kind of consistently return in the past. Mm-hmm. So I would probably look there if I was going to bring a Forest attacker in.
Okay. Salah's next. I did say last week, whenever he appears on the assists or the goals imminent table, he tends to pop off. But he didn't this time. I'm expecting him to pop off on this one to get some attacking returns. He was very wide against Luton, but he's got Brentford at home next. It's a nice home game for him there. And then they've got City away and then Fulham at home as well. So it goes without saying he's a keep. But I'm expecting. I mean, I'm very optimistic of returns, and I think I'll probably captain Salah in Gameweek 12. Are you similarly optimistic?
Yeah, I mean, he was quiet at Luton, but he should have got an assist, shouldn't he? I mean, Darwin missed that absolute sitter from his header. I'm not concerned with him. I think he's returned in every home game so far. 2 of the next 3 are at Anfield. So yeah, he's a key, and I think he's my captain in my bus team at the moment. But yeah, he's good next 4 fixtures. Bar that City fixture, it's all pretty positive.
Okay, doubt it. Luton. Not many people going for a Luton defence. No. But they can get the odd return as Kabore showed, but probably sketch over them a bit. But Fulham are interesting. So Willian is here. He didn't give us a return. I mean, he remains to be seen whether he's still on the assists imminent table. But Fulham are an interesting side in that some of their fixtures are very good, and they could be quite handy with some of their assets, particularly in attack. But I wanted to say they did have a different striker up front. He looked better, but then he looked injured. Yeah. So, would you know what the latest is there?
I haven't had an update on it. No, okay. It didn't look particularly promising at the weekend. No. But I think that's the root of the problem. When you look at Willian last year, was a good player to own because he had Mitrovic who was converting his chances. This year they've got problems. They've obviously tried the young lad was at Minutes at the weekend, but it's been Jimenez, it's been Vinicius before that, and none of them are up to that level of Mitrovic, and that's the problem. You can create all the chances in the world, but I mean, Willian had a hard time at the weekend in the fact that he was up against Wan-Bissaka, who's a good defensive defender. He was in and out of the game a bit, but I just can't look at them now, at the midfielders or the creators in the team, because I just don't feel confident anybody's going to finish off those opportunities.
No, I know. So they do. I just remind people of the fixture. They've got Villa away, and then they've got Wolves. They do have Liverpool, but then they have Nottingham Forest at home, West Ham at home, and Newcastle away. So mixed fixtures, but when they're good, they're quite good. Interesting differentials there. But yeah, I don't think people are going to go there, but you never know. We've got to highlight these players. That's what we're all about, looking at those under the radar players, and Fulham players are certainly that at the moment. Let's have a look at the goals imminent table going into game week 12. So this is the latest brand new one. I fired it up this morning post Spurs game. And so, yeah, this is looking at the last 4 game weeks. So I have been doing it by matches because the matches have been slightly uneven because of Luton and Burnley playing twice in game week 7, I think it was. So we have a game week 8, 9, 10, 11 now. So we're back onto 4 games. Everyone has played exactly the same. So everyone is equal. We can go last 4 game weeks. That means it counts out anyone who's like particularly amazing game weeks 1 to 3 or something, but then got injured. So their last 4 matches would have been counted. So this is how I like it. So it's fairly up to date. Now, Darwin Núñez is top of here. That will not surprise his owners. He's had 5 big chances. He's fluffed 4 of them, but he has scored. He's had 8 shots on target out of 18 shots over his last 4 game weeks. 12 of those have been inside the box, but he has started 3 times. With Diaz's issues with his dad being kidnapped, that would indicate that Diaz might be, Jota might start on the left. So, and Darwin just seems to be the logical best player to play as a centre forward. But great stats. He should have got at least an extra goal over that time, so his owners can feel unlucky there. But with those fixtures coming up for Liverpool, Brentford up next, then they do have that City game, but then Fulham, Sheffield United, Crystal Palace, and then Manchester United, which is a good game for Liverpool in game week 17 from an attacking point of view historically. I mean he's definitely a keep, isn't he? But what did Darwin owners do at the moment? Just keep, be happy, enjoy the points coming up?
Don't think they can be happy having watched Sunday, because I think he had half of those shots were on Sunday. He had 9 shots against Luton, and I think 3 of the big chances were from that match. And it felt like the Darwin of last season. We thought he had turned a bit of a corner, but he missed some decent chances. Yep. But to be fair to him, he's always involved, isn't he? You know, everything goes through him at Liverpool when he's playing. He's taken such a large proportion of the shots. He hit the bar, I think, as well in the first half. I did have a slight concern after the game when Klopp spoke about the first half, the lack of counter-pressing. That's been a problem with Darwin that he's criticised him before, and he hasn't been in the team because of his pressing. But I think, they improved in the second half, and he actually said that he thought Darwin had done well in moments in that game. So I think he's ahead of Gakpo. Gakpo doesn't look at it at the moment.
He's pretty young, isn't he, Gakpo, still?
Yeah, exactly. And he got used in central midfield as well at the start of the season, didn't he? So he can move around into a few different positions. But I think if you're a Darwin owner, you probably want him rested in Thursday in the Europa League. And the City match, I think that's a massive concern for him because it's after the international break. We saw what happened. It's the early kickoff again. But I still think I don't think you want to be transferring him out before Brentford unless we hear definitively that he isn't starting that game. And because when he does play, he just racks up so many shots that the returns will come as long as he's playing, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Zaniola is next up on the list, but I'm quite correct in saying that he's basically sharing minutes with Bailey at the moment in the Villa side.
Yeah, he missed a good chance at the City ground from a Diaby pass on Sunday, and it wasn't happening for us like in the week before. Hauled him off, so not an option.
Yeah, not an option. And 8 shots inside the box, 10 shots in total. Just 2 on target, and that sort of sums him up, really. He had 2 big chances, missed them both. Next up is Watkins. Now, this is a Villa asset who is in many teams and still a good buy with Aston Villa's fixtures over the next few matches. Mixed bag, but they got Fulham at home next. That's good. Tottenham away. That's very tricky. Bournemouth away. Then they got Man City at home, Arsenal at home, and then Brentford away. So I say it's a mixed bag, but actually the fixtures don't look that good in terms of if we think Villa are better at home than they are away. And their home matches, 2 of their home matches coming up, City and Arsenal, so they're really tough. Meanwhile, their away matches are sort of tough as well, with Tottenham and Brentford included in there as well. So perhaps it's after Fulham, is Watkins ditchable after he plays Fulham at home in Game Week 12?
I don't mind the next 3 fixtures. I think you can hold on to him up until 15, I think, because Fulham at home, we've won 12 in a row. That's a great fixture. Tottenham, I don't think it's a bad fixture for our attackers because they play that high. It's going to like the battle of the high lines, isn't it? It's going to be carnage that match. It's going
to be 22 people on the halfway line.
Balls over the top and who can run the quickest, basically. So I think that's a good fixture for not just for Villa attackers like Diaby and Watkins, but for players like Son as well. I think he'll be a captaincy shout that week. So I think that's fine. And then you go to Bournemouth, and yes, it's away from home, but that's a good fixture for an attacker. So I think, Watkins has appeared on these tables before, hasn't he, Joe? And we've always kind of said we're not seeing anything different in the way he's playing. No. He's a hold. I think he's a hold for the next 3 game weeks, and then after that, though, I think that might be the time to look elsewhere.
Okay, so Game Week 15. I mean, just looking at the fixtures in Game Week 15, if we're thinking of removing Watkins, so some who haven't got Haaland and they want to sort of free up money elsewhere, and they've got that space, Watkins would be the one to make way, perhaps. But also Liverpool face Sheffield United, so Darwin. Could be a great option. In fact, definitely a great option there. Jesus could be back for Arsenal against Luton. That could be interesting as well. That's about it, really, I would imagine. Just looking at the fixtures in Game Week 15. But yeah, there's definitely options there to remove Watkins. Perhaps I think Nunes looks the best one there. That's a move I might consider myself, looking at the way those fixtures are.
It's a shame we don't have a nailed Brighton forward because they play Brentford and Burnley back to back at home and things like that. And Wolves play Burnley and Forest at home, but you're not going to go for Cunha, are you? So but there's 2 or 3 replacements for Watkins, and more will probably emerge as we get closer to that.
I'll just finish off his stats there. So he's had 11 shots, every single one of those inside the box, and 6 of those on target. He's had 5 big chances, fluffed them all, but he has scored, and he should have scored about another one over that time. So these are great stats still. Definitely a hold. But as you said, looking at the fixtures, Game Week 15 looks like a sort of Watkins hop-off time, if you want to go for that. Jota's next. While Diaz is out, Jota's favoured on the left. But Diaz could be back even. I mean, he wanted to be in the squad. He wanted to be involved as a distraction from what's happening with his dad being kidnapped. So He may well be back, so that suddenly puts a question mark over Jota's starts, I would imagine, and he's unlikely to start through the middle. So 9 shots, all of those inside the box. These are good Jota stats. 4 of those on target. He has scored in the last 4. He's had 2 big chances and missed 1 of them, so he scored 1 from 1. Probably not an option though, with Nunez and Salah, and of course their defenders as well.
Yeah, it feels risky, doesn't it? It's a bit like at City in those wide positions. Diaz obviously came on at the weekend, made an instant impact, and maybe focusing on that rather than what's going on at home. He reacted, really well to that and came on and got the equaliser. So we don't know where he's at. Let's see what happens in the Europa on Thursday, and then if he's involved again. But yeah, I don't think you want to. I think that the 2 at Liverpool are Salah and Darwin in that strike force. So.
Next up, Solanke at Bournemouth. He has had 11 shots, all of those inside the box, every single one inside the box. Just 3 on target though. He should have got, on top of his goal over the last 4 game weeks, he should have got a third of a goal more, so a little bit more than a goal. But he's had 1 big chance and scored from that, really. Bournemouth's fixtures, they got Newcastle home next, and then they got Sheffield United. That's good. Villa, that could be good for Solanke with the high line. Crystal Palace, that's tough for Solanke, I'd say. Then Manchester United, that could be good for Solanke. And then Luton. Bournemouth. Yeah, then Luton. So it's quite it's an okay run of fixtures, really. 6.4 million. So, I mean, looking at game week 15, really, because that's when we're thinking perhaps hopping off Watkins. Solanke could be an interesting little punt there for Crystal Palace, Manchester United and Luton. Might get some returns there. Just someone to put in the mix, someone to consider.
Yeah, I mean, the fixtures are a bit up and down, but if you've got Sheffield United, Villa, Palace United, then, there's some good fixtures in there. So I think beyond the guys that we speak about in terms of the forwards, like Watkins and Darwin's, if you want to drop down a tier, slightly cheaper forward if you need one, Solanke is probably going to be in the consideration, I would have thought.
Next up is Alexander Arnold. So last week there was hardly any, not many names on this table, so I upped it. I lowered the threshold to 9 shots over the last 4 matches or 4 game weeks, and I sort of kept it this time because it threw up Alexander Arnold, and I didn't want to sort of discount him just for the sake of 1 shot, especially when you're a defender, because shots don't tend to mean much. Having said that, they are interesting, do indicate he's having a go. So Alexander Arnold over the last 4 games had 9 shots, which is a lot for a defender. He's obviously started all 4 of those, but nothing else. No big chances, no shots inside the box, have all been at range. So he 7.9 million, and that's the crucial thing about it, really, is these stats, whilst it's good to see him on the table, they don't quite justify that price tag, do they?
No, probably not. I think I haven't got the stats in front of me, but those shots, I could imagine a lot of them were free kicks, which is fine. That's kind of key to his appeal, isn't it? I thought watching the game on Sunday, everything good that Liverpool did went through Alexander Arnold. Yeah. I think he had 6 key passes in that game, I think. And I quite like him as a differential for this run, but it's a heck of a lot of money to spend on him, isn't it? It's that 7.9 million. And he's probably a bit more appealing now after we've seen Tsimikas dropped. It was hard to make too much of a case for him over Tsimikas, given the 3.4 million, well, what is it now? £3.3 million price difference, something like that. Now Tsimikas has been dropped and we're thinking, is Gomez going to play? Alexander Arnold becomes a bit more appealing because he's nailed in that team, but it's just a lot of money, isn't it? I think people, if they want an expensive defender, they'll probably go Trippier, and it's very hard to fit in 2 of those players.
Oh God, definitely. If I had the money to spend in defence to do that, I would definitely get Trippier in. I mean, just on Tsimikas, I got him in for Dan Burn, which is now the 3rd time this season I've got a player in and then the next day they get an injury that's long term. So who will I ditch next?
Tune into the team reveal video tomorrow.
So I got rid of him, but for Simicast, and it actually, considering the way the other defenders worked out for many, especially Spurs defenders, I think I did okay with my 1 point from Simicast. But nevertheless, I was quite surprised to see him dropped. Do you think that was just a one-off because of the way Luton set up, that Gomez was preferred? But do you think Simicast is actually the number one still?
I think so. Gomez hadn't played at left back. I think I saw a stat on Sky Sports since 2015. That was his last appearance, starting at left back. So you've got to think it was match specific. Luton are good at set pieces and having an extra body in there and the strength of Gomez. I think Simicast will play more often than not.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of he's not going to be super nailed in that team. He's not 100% starting. He will sit the odd game out. Okay. And the problem is he is going to come on as a sub as well most of the time. Yeah, like we saw when they were chasing the game at the weekend, they were looking to score, so they brought him on. So it isn't. His appeal has certainly dropped in the space of a few days. But I'm going to play him this week. I don't think it's worth a transfer out a home match. And I just hope he puts in a really, really good performance, and that maybe helps his cause a little bit moving into the next few games.
Yeah, that's why I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic as well that it was specifically for Luton. They're pretty good at set pieces with their threat there. And with Brentford at home, that feels more of a Simicast kind of game. And I'm not sure what more I would better glean from what happens in Europe this week as well with the Liverpool team sheet there, because Simicast could play there, and you can take that either way.
It's not like he's overworked, is it, this season? So they'll probably play him in that. Brentford are good at set pieces too. We shouldn't completely discount that, but it's a home match, and after struggling to break down Luton, I think that they might need Simicast's creativity in that one, rather than going for a kind of a centre back playing in the left back position.
Yeah, definitely. Let's have a look down the list again. So Alexander, we'll talk about Simicast there. Matthias Cunha at Wolves as well, a game against Tottenham. So Tottenham are going to want to do well in that after what happened against Chelsea. I'm just waiting for Pedro Neto to get back. He was in my team, and he's the one I really like. And I prefer Hwang when Neto's in the side. Yeah. Although Hwang did get an assist this time out. I think you really want to be getting goals from him, and I think Neto's the one to get assists there. But Cunha, nevertheless, is worth a mention because he could get a return for this table next week. 10 shots, 7 inside the box, 8 shots in target. So that means one of his long-range efforts was on target as well. And these are good. Yeah, he's scored in the last 4. He's had 1 big chance, and he's missed 1 big chance as well. These are good stats, I think, and I do think Wolves are going to score against Spurs, and that's why I may end up benching Porro again.
Yeah, it suddenly looks a bit more appealing, that fixture, doesn't it? If you own Hwang or something like that, could get a bit of joy there. I didn't see the game at the weekend. I think Cunha was moved out. I think he was either moved deeper or wider, because I'm sure they played with another forward. But he's the same price as Hwang, isn't he? So I'd certainly prefer him. He looks more of a threat. He looks more clinical than Cunha.
Willian, we've already mentioned about Fulham. Their problem is a striker, and they've got the new young striker, but he could be injured for a while. But nevertheless, Willian has had 11 shots, 6 inside the box, and 4 on target over his last 4 game weeks. Are you at Crystal Palace? Crystal Palace fixtures still good. Everton, Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth, and then it gets a bit tricky in game week 16 with Liverpool and Man City. But IE at 5.4 million is an option with 9 shots, 6 inside the box. It's Eze, really, we all want. He's the one, as we said last week. So, yeah, Eze's the one investment I go for. But the next name's interesting, Alvarez at Man City. With Man City's fixtures being Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham and Villa up next, it's not until game week 16 that they do improve. And we've seen what happened with against Bournemouth, what they can do to the lesser teams. But against some of the other teams, like the Arsenals, for example, they have looked to have struggled a little and not been at their best, attacking best. So Alvarez could be surplus to requirements for a few weeks for those wanting to ditch, do you think?
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to be a priority sell, because he's playing in a City attack. He's nailed at the moment. But there isn't a lot of goal threat there in terms of close range threat, is there, Joe? I mean, 3 shots in the box in the last 4 game weeks.
Yeah.
When I was looking at some stats at the weekend, I think it's 4 shots in the box in the last 7 matches, which is really, really low. And obviously, he's bringing new elements into his game. He's more creative, playing that kind of De Bruyne-esque role. But that's a bit of a concern that he's not getting close to goal and getting those shots in the box up. So I think he's okay to hold. I don't think he's, like I say earlier, I don't think he's a priority sell, but I think you could quite easily move him on as well.
Yeah. Okay. Before we move on to this Imminent table, just want to, GWiz has been highlighting a national scandal in the live chat, urging people to press the like button, that is. There's hundreds of you in the live chat, but barely... under 50 likes, so I'm assuming you just forgotten to press the button, and you do love it, or perhaps you're trying to look for a love button instead of the like button. Okay, let's move on. Do press that like button, and do remember to subscribe as well. But press that like button. Go on, press it. Assist Imminent table going in for Game Week 12. Okay, so Luke Dean for Aston Villa created 9 chances in his last 4 game weeks. He's had 8 corners, 9 successful crosses. He's a good assist imminent. He's top of the assist imminent table if you sort by expected assists delta, which is underperforming. So he should have got at least an assist over the last 4 game weeks. I've started to notice this in the scout picks, that the scout picks gurus, i.e. you and a few others, have been picking Luca Dean over Matty Cash when you're looking for a Villa defender. Why is that?
Well, there's quite a big price difference now. It's 0.5 million between the two. And when they're both playing, when Cash is playing that kind of regular role, i.e. not out of position, Dean is the player offering the more threats, but more crosses into the box. He's more chances created as well. Now, the system at the City ground was a little bit different. Kamara, and it has happened a few times in the past few games as well, Kamara drops in as like a third centre-back, which allows Cash to get a little bit higher, but it was still Dean who was much more advanced on that left side. So I like Dean, but the only worry is Alex Moreno was back on the bench at the weekend. He was first choice last year, played very well, Emery signing. It's going to take him a while to get a bit up to speed. I think Dean will play against Fulham, I think. But then he's got the international break when he'll be building up his fitness. And I think long term, I think that is Alex Moreno's position in that team. So that dents Dean's appeal a little bit. He's also on 4 yellow cards, but I think short term he'll be okay. Okay.
Let's get over McNeil. As we said, Everton are improving, and McNeil has had 11 chances. He created 11 chances, had 11 corners, 9 successful crosses. These are great stats for an improving Everton side who have Crystal Palace, Manchester United, Nottingham Forest, then Newcastle and Chelsea, then Burnley in Game Week 17. Nice bunch of fixtures apart from those 2 in Game Week 15 and 16. But it's Diaby, interesting. Another Villa player, 10 chances. He's created just 3 successful crosses because he's been playing more up front. Really, so you would hope that he would be assisting Watkins, or Watkins would be assisting him. 6.8 million. I mean, he is a definite hold at the moment, but with Tottenham up in Game Week 30, well, I don't know, a high line Tottenham, there's still, I mean, the same would apply to what we were talking about with Watkins, I presume. Game Week 15 could be the time to dump Diaby, but keep until then.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, Forrest defended really well at the weekend, and he should have got an assist. Zaniolo should have scored from his pass. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a hold for the next 3, and then once we get into that run of City and Arsenal, that's the time to move him on for someone else.
Okay, Alexander Arnold's next. We've already spoken about him in the goals imminent table, but he's on the assists imminent table as well. When that happens, that's Hall imminent. So 7 chances created, 10 corners, 6 successful crosses, no assists, but should have had an assist over his last 4 game weeks. Got Brentford at home up next, so a definite keep. But as we were talking about, tricky to fit in a lot of teams. I have seen him in a number of teams though, particularly those who've gone without Haaland. Looks good for Alexander Arnold going into game week 12. Martinelli's next. He's in your team. 11 chances created, 10 corners, 6 successful crosses, no assists, but should have got one over the last 4 game weeks. And he's got a goal as well. You got him in on wild cards to sort of go with Saka. How confident are you with that double investment in Arsenal's attack at the moment?
Well, I'm not particularly confident because it hasn't paid off so far. And I've been watching players like Bowen, who obviously got the goal. There wasn't that many decisions to make in a game week 10 wild card because a lot of the positions were locked. But the 2 that I made in Martinelli and Adingra, they're the wrong decisions so far because I should have got somebody like Bowen and Palmer, who's obviously got the goal and assist last night. But there's still a good round of fixtures to come for both of those players. They've got Burnley. Arsenal have got Burnley and Brighton have got Sheffield United this weekend. So let's see. I mean, Martinelli's been, like we say, like you can see on this table, he's been really creative. I don't think any player in the Premier League has created more chances than him or key passes. I think is the stat since he came back from injury. So there's various routes to points with him, but I really need him to return soon because he was brought in for these home games against Sheffield United and Burnley, so I need a big performance.
Yeah, I mean it's a tricky game week 13 away to Brentford, but then you've got Wolves at home, Luton away, and then Villa with their high line in game week 16, and then Brighton with their non-existent line in defence in game week 17. So these are really
good fixtures
on paper. Yeah, this is time to load up, but as you said, it's the Arsenal attack doesn't feel that it's gelling as well as it did last season.
No, I mean Saka's struggling as well, isn't he? Odegaard hasn't been fit and he missed out at the weekend, and but even that kind of largely second string side against Sheffield United, they put 5 past Sheffield United, didn't they, when Nketiah got the hat-trick? So the fixtures should make them better. Even if they're struggling a bit, they should have more than enough to kind of win these matches. So I hope we get some kind of involvement from Martinelli and Saka and those kind of well-owned players.
And in game week 14, Brentford play Luton at home. Those who don't have Mbomo will want to get Mbomo in. So essentially, these Arsenal players are fighting for their place in our teams. Because, I mean, I've got Saka, and if Saka blanks against Burnley, Brentford in the next 2, then game week 14, irrespective of Wolves at home for Arsenal, I'm going to ditch for Mbomo. But if Saka is doing well over the next 2, then I will keep. But many people will face that decision, I think.
Yeah, I'd seen that Luton fixture for Brentford in 14. I didn't realise they played Brighton and Sheffield United after. So they've got an excellent little run, haven't they? Yeah. They blank in 18, but you should be able to absorb that if you've just got Haaland from City and maybe you haven't got any kind. I mean, I've got Mabama in my team, but providing you haven't got 2 or 3 kind of players who aren't getting any minutes, you should be okay. Yeah, because you've got to take advantage of that run, haven't you?
So if you've got a Neil Maupay or an Archer, one of those types of players in attack on your bench, or not Neil Maupay because he's going to blank obviously in game week 18. But yeah, if you've got say Archer for example, you've got a playable bench, you can move in, especially if you've got a playable defence as well. So those who've got, so maybe Dan Burn, obviously it's probably, I would say a priority this week probably to remove any of those long-term injury players and sort of start stocking up, preparing for game week 18. Because if you're going into game week 18 with just Haaland and Mbomo, that's fine. They can happily just be benched, no problem. As long as you've got some good, some okay cheap players to come in. But yeah, I've seen some very poor benches recently in a lot of teams. A lot of not just the red flags, but just players. They're just not getting in the side. So they're probably going to need to think about that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth considering with that blank coming up in 18. And I mean, I own Mabama from West Ham who isn't getting any minutes at the moment, and I think I think I'll be okay. But if there's another player who loses his place or gets an injury, you're going to have to replace them straight away. No.
Yeah, definitely. So we can sort of sketch over some of the others. I'll just sort of mention their stats. We've already mentioned them. Ward-Prowse at West Ham. He's had 15 corners, as you expect from him. 9 chances created, 6 successful crosses, but no assists in his last 4 game weeks. Gibbs-White, we've mentioned as well. Probably not the best Forest asset. Nevertheless, he has taken 12 corners, created 9 chances and had 7 successful crosses. Just not been of a quality. Willian at Fulham, he hasn't got anyone to aim at, but he's had 5 corners and 8 chances created. Salah is still on this table. 9 chances created, 5 goals, no assists. I'll probably captain him, so I'll take any returns here. But it looks like an assist is due against Brentford. And Hughes at Crystal Palace is last on this. People won't go there, but someone to mention because he's exactly the kind of player that we can get smug points for if he gets something next week. He's had 12 corners and 7 chances created and 4 successful crosses in his last 4 game weeks. I do have another table to show people. This is looking at best strikers, and this is all season, keeping it nice and simple because I think people who maybe own Watkins and say, oh, he didn't score this week, I want to get rid of him, and those types of things. They've had a terrible week. They maybe got 10 points or 15 points or 20 points or something. And it's got quite good to remind ourselves that some of these strikers are actually pretty good and they've got good expected stats. They're also getting returns as well. So we'll move on to that. Do press that like button, by the way. Do keep pressing that like button for us. So I'll put this table up now. So this is just best strikers this season. I'm just keeping it really simple. No messing around. Haaland is at the top, as you imagine. So I think people will still be thinking about removing Haaland, but it looks like he'll be fit for the next game. It looks like he's actually in the squad for Europe as well. Whether he'll play or start is another matter. But let's remind people that he's had 19 big chances this season, which is way more than any other striker. He's had 42 shots, which is way more than any other striker, about 10 more than any others. 11 goals, 22 shots on target. So half of his shots on target result in a goal. Expected goals, non-penalty. So for open play, he's getting between 8 and 9. He's expected to get goals there. So the rest are pens. And his expected goal delta, so he's marginally overperforming, but it's negligible really, 0.7 there is his delta. So just a reminder really, people will be looking to like free up money, but I think there's so many cheap options to get. I don't think anyone who's got Haaland needs to remove Haaland now, do they?
No, he was seen in training yesterday, wasn't he? Like we say, we don't know if he'll play tonight, but I think he'll probably be ready for Chelsea. Yeah. And I think that's I think Chelsea have done okay defensively this year, but you saw last night when Spurs had 11 players on the pitch, they were cutting through them pretty easily at the beginning of that game. So I think for a player like Haaland, I think this is fine. I've got no concerns with him, providing he's fit. But he is the most sold. I think certainly this morning he was the most sold player this week.
Okay. Yeah,
which is surprising.
As FPL Bateman has just pointed out in the live chat, because Alvarez is further down this table with 32 shots, 4 goals, 12 shots on target. So his 32 shots combined with Haaland's, that's 74 shots from those 2 players, which is not bad considering we're only at the game week 11 mark as well. Also a reminder there, do put some questions in the live chat. We'll come to those after we've done with this table. We'll try and answer as many questions as we can. So do put some questions in the live chat and do put a question mark on it so I can easily see them as well. Next up is Jackson. Now Jackson's a funny one, different to Haaland, as in Haaland's got great expected stats and he delivers. Now Jackson's many times this season has not delivered but had a great stats. So his expected goals non-penalty is actually 7 this season, just behind Haaland. He's had 13 shots on target, scored 5 times, 30 shots, and he's had 13 big chances, and he's been underperforming by his owners will know this, by at least a couple of goals this season. But his hat-trick, three of his 5 goals came against 9 men Spurs who refused to defend stubbornly. So it was unsurprising he did well there. But against a normal team that will defend and has 11 players, he's still possibly not the best asset to get in, even though he's 6.8 million. What do you think?
Yeah, the fixtures aren't great for Chelsea, are they? With City and Newcastle. then Brighton and United, which is a little bit better. But I think he looked a bit nervy and wasn't great either last night up until he got that hat trick. He missed a few chances. So I'm just thinking what that XG delta would look like prior to that hat trick, which I mean, it would have been ridiculously high. So I don't think we need to be looking at Jackson. I think of the forwards at the moment, I think the next two are on that list are quite comfortably ahead at the moment.
Yeah. As Chat Sport as points out in the live chat, Shirley Jackson is on the radar if teams play with 9 men. Indeed, he looks absolutely the best striker to get in against 9 men. Watkins and Nunes are next. So I sort of lump them together because it's very feasible to go for both in a 4-3-3 with Haaland or perhaps another striker. Because I'll just read out their stats again. Watkins, 12 big chances this season, 33 shots, 15 of those shots, so almost half of those shots on target. He has scored 5 goals. Darwin Núñez, similarly impressive, 13 big chances, 32 shots, 4 goals, 13 shots on target, and expected goals, non-penalty, getting on for 5, same as Watkins there. So as we were talking about earlier, this seems to be the thing, is sort of Darwin Núñez is great from now onwards, but beware game week 13, is it? Where they could,
after the international break.
After the international break, and also they play Man City there. But apart from that, but Watkins is good for now, and in game week 15 could be the chance to move to Darwin Núñez perhaps, because in game week 15, Aston Villa, just remind people, have City, Arsenal, and then Brentford. Meanwhile, Liverpool have Sheffield United, Crystal Palace, and Manchester United, which, that's Derby game, all stats and form go out the window. That should be high scoring. So that's definitely a move I'm really considering there.
Yeah, and what's so impressive with the volume of the amount, Núñez has played half the minutes of Watkins this year. I think he's I think it's around about half, so he's got the same amount of shots of half the minutes, which tells you when he's on the pitch, he racks up the shots. He'll miss a lot of those chances, but he's involved, and you might just get him in and he might just land on one of those games when he's going to. I still feel there's a big haul in Darwin, and that might be coming up in one of these games. Can be frustrating to own for sure, but we want our strikers to be shooting. We just got to hope he becomes a little bit more clinical. But I think that if I were to kind of rank them at the moment, I'd put Watkins ahead of Darwin because of that international break minutes risk. After that, though, that seems like a good move, providing we still think he's the number one there. Yeah,
Isak is next. He's injured at the moment. Just as a useful reminder that when he comes back, he's amazing. 10 big chances, 18 shots, 6 goals. 11 of his shots have been on target. And as expected, goals non-penalty is just under what Darwin Núñez is. So a great asset there. And he is number one when fit for Newcastle there. Wissa is next for Brentford. He's 5.9 million. Now, Brentford's fixtures do improve from game week 14. As we said, they got that great run of Luton, Brighton and Sheffield United. That's a really nice little run there to invest in Brentford. But beware, they blank in game week 18. And that's why people might not go there. But if you fancy doing that, and perhaps maybe you're playing a free hit in game week 18, or you just think your team can withstand those types of moves, Wissa, I think, is an option, I think. But Neil Maupay's been playing up front at the moment for Brentford. So is it a bit of an attack in flux at the moment, apart from Bomo?
Well, they tend to play 3-5-2, don't they, in the bigger matches?
Yeah.
Against Liverpool and Arsenal. Now, previously, that's been Mbomo and Wizza who have been preferred. But Maupay is coming in and making an impact, so he might eat into his minutes a little bit. When they play a 4-3-3, they can all be accommodated. That's fine. But I think Mbomo's on that tier above at the moment.
So Wilson is here as well. So see also Isak. So if Isak's not available, Wilson will be the main contender. But beware, I'm not sure he's going to play weekend, midweek, weekend. And as we said last week, it could be Gordon that plays up front against Bournemouth away, which would be good.
Well, yeah, he's having his minutes managed, and that's exactly what happened against Arsenal. He came off at 60-ish something minutes, and Gordon was the one who went up top. So see what happens against Dortmund, and then kind of I don't think you want to be bringing in Wilson now anyway, given what we've been talking about Isak. I think the time was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Isak could be back. But yeah, it was good news for Gordon, though. For those who got Gordon in, I think he was popular on the sort of Game Week 8 wild cards. And so if you've still got him, keep him, definitely. We got Solanke we've mentioned as well. He is an option at 6.4, 29 shots. So we're still having some really good shots. But he's and got 4 goals, 9 on target. And so he's still got some good underlying stats. And Bournemouth, if we think they're going to improve, could do well in Game Week 13. They've got Sheffield United. Then they've got Villa and Crystal Palace. So a little run then. And that's your sort of Bournemouth time, your Bournemouth window, I would imagine. Neil Maupay at Brentford. We've spoken about Brentford. They've got that Game Week 18 issue, but great little fixture run just before that as well to invest in. Alvarez, we've spoken about him as well, but just read his stats out. He's got 32 shots, 12 on target, but it's not as impressive as some of the others. But as FPL Bateman pointed out, 74 shots between 2 players is pretty good. You want a team with that kind of action going on. And Nketiah at Arsenal. Now, those who've got him in for his hat-trick, well done. He's quite good to rotate with Cole Palmer. Now Arsenal have a good run of fixtures. Cole Palmer can slip to the bench and Nketiah can come on. But he's had 25 shots from his limited starts and 6 big chances, 7 shots on target, an expected goal. Deltas is very much, I was going to marginally overperforming, very much overperforming by getting on for 2 goals there. But I think the problem with him is with Jesus. I don't think. I mean, there was talk of Havertz starting up front or Trossard, but it's really between Nketiah and Jesus. When Jesus is back, that's going to be him, isn't it?
Feels that way, doesn't it? Yeah, there had been talk of other players playing false 9 roles, but Arteta seemed to trust them. I think if you own Nketiah, he's a really good option for this week. Yeah, because I don't think Jesus is going to be back longer term. It carries a bit more risk. Yeah. So I'd probably hold fire on that. But yeah, if you own him for sure, play him. Really great option this week. Okay,
let's have a look at the live chat. Do remember to press that like button, by the way, and do subscribe if you're not already. So I'll try and find as many questions as I can. I'll go quite back. See if we've got any question marks here. So if you just bear with me while I find a question mark. What about Darwin? Says Mohammed as well. I think we've covered Darwin. Darwin looks great asset being in, but beware Game Week 13 might be rotated. And if you've got Watkins to Darwin in Game Week 15 is a move I'm considering at this stage. Who knows what will happen in the next few weeks, but that could be a move there. So we've already covered that. Please do. I'll find a question in a sec. Where's Evan Ferguson? Asks Alex Mason. He's just below the names on that table. So I stopped at about 10 and he's about 13 or so. There was a bit of a gap because I didn't do it by minutes. So obviously you're looking at the lack of minutes there. And that's why he's not as good an asset. He is probably the most exciting teenage striker since Wayne Rooney in the Premier League. But he can't be the most exciting teenage striker in the Premier League if he's not on the pitch. So that's the thing. It's minutes, really. It's the minutes risk. He should start, but he might come off at 45 minutes, 60 minutes. You would think with Welbeck out now, he's good. But he said, Alex Mason says, hat-trick coming up against Sheffield United on Sunday.
Well, whoever plays is obviously going to be a great option for that fixture.
Yeah. So definitely. Will any Brighton assets make your scout picks? Do you reckon? Matoma, surely.
Yeah, I think so. He's in the bus team, Matoma. I mean, we've got this big game against Ajax on Thursday.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if De Zerbi massively rings the changes at the weekend, but Matoma's probably the most nailed player. Well, with Gross, he's the most nailed player there, isn't he? So you might get unlucky and he might be benched, but he's probably one of the best ones you can punt on.
I mean, you and I both have a Dingra. I don't have a problem with the Dingra. Still 5 million. The fixtures are good. I think that even if he doesn't start against Sheffield United, he will see significant minutes because I still think it's only really Buonanotte that can replace him. And Buonanotte is not favoured for or more than 45 minutes really. So I would think you're going to get minutes there. So I still think Odingra is definitely a hold. But yeah, I mean another nailed player as if you can get is Lewis Dunk in the Brighton setup. He might miss the odd game, but he's pretty nailed there. And he's actually pretty good goal threat from set pieces.
Didn't he have one disallowed? He had one disallowed at the weekend.
Oh, it was amazing. It was like, I think it was on the volley and it hit the crossbar and it was just amazing. But yes, he does have that in him and he plays Sheffield United next. So
who struggle defending set pieces.
Exactly.
Might
and
not be bad.
N in the live chat says thoughts on Lewis Dunk as a Dan Burn replacement. Always a threat from set pieces and is on free kicks. He is always on free kicks. I saw him score an amazing free kick, I think, against Liverpool a few years back. I think he is actually quite a good replacement. We're all waiting for a Stupinan to come back though. So that's the thing that caveat. But I think if you want a Brighton defender with attacking threat, which is what you need because they're not going to keep a clean sheet, although they might in this fixture. I don't have a problem with getting Lewis Dunk for the next Sheffield United, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Brentford, Burnley in the next 5. I think there's surely a couple of clean sheets, even for Brighton.
I think he's probably one of the. I mean, I think I'd prefer a Palace defender maybe if you haven't got a Mark Gahey or if you can stretch to Anderson. But after that, I think Dunk's got to be in the conversation, hasn't he?
Charlie asked Bowen and Palmer or Mbomo and Gordon. Which pair to get from game week 13? I would say, when are Newcastle playing? They're playing Chelsea game week 13, but then they are playing Manchester United at home in game week 14. I would say neither. I would say game week 14, look to get Mbomo and Gordon in, because Mbomo's fixtures in game week 14 are much better. They've got that lovely run of Luton, Brighton and Sheffield United, whereas they've got Liverpool and Arsenal before that. So I'm going to say neither to Charlie there, and then make that move perhaps in game week 14.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're just asking which pairing, I prefer the Mbomo Gordon one. I think just slightly. I think that they both look really good, like long-term holds. You just got to get the timing right with it, because of course, Bowen plays Burnley in 13, doesn't he? Which is better. Yeah. Chelsea have still got some tricky fixtures, but we saw, when you've got a player on penalties. Sometimes Palmer's been relying on that to tick along recently, hasn't he? But I do think these matches can suit a player like Palmer because there's a bit more space to run into, and team rather than a team that will, Chelsea have struggled in those games where they've faced a really deep block this year, haven't they? Whereas with teams that come onto them a bit more, it creates a bit more space. But I like all the players, but I do think if I had to pick the two, I think I'd pick Mbomo and Gordon.
Yeah, I think at game week 14 is when I'm thinking of Mbomo. And if I don't, if Saka improves attacking wise, I'd want to keep him, and it could be Bowen that makes way, because in game week 14, Bowen's got a home game against Crystal Palace, and if we think that they're worse when they have more possession, and then this is the sort of game that doesn't favour Bowen or West Ham's attack, I think. Home game against Crystal Palace, because they're going to get a lot of possession there in that match, which won't suit them. Twisted Sparky, best Burn replacement. So we've mentioned sort of Lewis Dunk. He's thinking about some of the other Newcastle options, Livramento and Lascelles, as for the medium term, perhaps. There's problems there with Livramento was coming on the right, though, and that's where Trippier plays. So, Trippier plays on the left where he's less effective. So there's different options there. So I would say it's a wait and see to see if Livramento's going to be nailed on. Do you think?
It's quite. I mean, I'll probably be asking Neil and Mark in the office because there's the resident Newcastle fans. But if you bring Livramento in, do you play Livramento right back and then you switch Trippier to left back? But then that severely impacts the team by doing that. So does he then play Trippier at right back and keep him there, and then bring in somebody like Lewis Hall, who's played at left back? He's not naturally a left back, but he's played there before, so he could come in as well. And so if you're after a budget defender from Newcastle, I'd probably just go with Lascelles for now. Because there's obviously still doubts around Botman. He might, I think there's some talk of him potentially needing surgery. So don't make the move yet, but see what Howe says after the Champions League, see what he says on Friday. And if it does sound like Botman's a long-term injury, then I think you could go for Lascelles. He's played really, really well. He's come in and slotted into that centre-back role really, really nicely.
Yeah, my only worry with Lascelles is that come game week 18, when you need your bench, and if Botman's back, then Lascelles won't play. So you've got another non-player on top of Haaland and Bomo,
that's a good
perhaps.
Point. Yeah.
But that's my only fear. But that is some time away, so anything can happen. Twisted Sparky said, what about Gabriel? I would say yes. I think if you can get to Gabriel, I would go to an Arsenal defender because they've got a really good run of fixtures. Even though for him, he got him in game week 10 and then removed him in game week 11, I imagine. And so he'd have to get him back in again. So
yeah, we've got to think that Sheffield United game when he didn't play, he'd played a lot of minutes prior to that. Let's hope it was rest. And that's what he was taken out for, because maybe it'll be Saliba's turn this weekend against Burnley. I don't know. Although maybe he'll just go full strength in this one because he'll need to get the win. I don't know. But hopefully Gabriel's safe because he's in my team. And if he misses Burnley and Sheffield United at home, you're going to be absolutely gutted.
Okay, I'll do these all more quick fire, and I'll answer some of them quickly, just because we've already answered them already. So just to cover them off, really. Brian Eze for Saka. Yes, we have already covered that. Saka's got a couple of games to show that he can actually attack, but this is a good time to get Eze in. So, but I mean, I think Saka at home to Burnley is not the time, but away to Brentford could be the time if you wanted to swap to Eze, who has Luton away there. So game week 14. Game week 13 rather than game week 12, possibly there, Brian. Varun asks, is Reece James an option? My answer is simply no. What's yours?
Well, I like Reece James as a player when he's fit. That's the problem. Yeah. He's not often fit, but the fixtures just aren't there to take that punt at the moment. City, Newcastle, Brighton, Man United. There's not enough upside there to risk potentially having to take him out again if he were to break down. So I think just leave him for now. See how many minutes he racks up, and then move when the fixtures ease a little bit.
Rasmus asked, would you sell Maddison? And it's to fund perhaps Kudos or even Eze.
Only if he's not fit.
But yeah, that'd be exactly my answer as well. If Maddison's well, keep him. But if he's an injury problem, then you got to remove those first. Roynish, should I keep Maddison on a wild cards? I think Son is still the one to have at the moment. But if you can't get to Son or don't want Son, I think he's definitely good. Williams Tropical Farm, thoughts on McTominay? He's just one of those players that is going to be in someone's team in your mini league and is not yours, and he'll get a goal and you'll think, I could have got him in, but long term the sorts of teams with McTominay in aren't the sorts of teams that do well, I would say. I mean, I might be wrong. There might be FPL Guns Ali last year may have had McTominay to lighten up his world-beating team last year, but I don't think so. Faithful to Yashia, is it time to buy Everton players? It depends which ones, but I think they've got some good fixtures with Crystal Palace, Manchester United, Nottingham Forest, then Newcastle game week 15, but then Chelsea and then Burnley. Some all right fixtures, really. I think if you're looking for a budget enabler, I don't think I think, as we said, Everton are an improving side at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, if you were to get an Everton player, which one would it be?
Probably Calvert-Lewin, I think, because he's starting to get those minutes, isn't he? There's Decore as well, who's shown a bit of goal threat.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the fixtures, though. If you're going to get an Everton attacker in, Palace away is a tough fixture. United at home, fair enough, that's okay. Forest away, we saw how Villa struggled at the weekend. Newcastle at home, Chelsea at home. Not the easiest of games. So even though, Everton... Our opinions of them, perceptions of them are changing, aren't they? Because they're getting better. They're putting in some good results. Yeah. I'm still not sure if there's going to be enough goals in those to make it a worthwhile move just yet. Mm-hmm. But I'd certainly look at them. I wouldn't write them off in a few weeks' time. I'll probably be looking at it again once the fixtures turn.
And I'll just finally, Tom O'Connell asked, does a triple up on the Palace defence make any sense? Because he has Johnston and Anderson, and he's thinking of getting Gahey in. I'm going to answer sort of yes and no. I don't like to double up or triple up on many defences. I don't even like to double up. So a triple up fills me with horror, any defence. However, having said that, Crystal Palace defenders can get an attacking return. They are getting clean sheets, and their fixtures are pretty good, especially with Everton at home. They've got Bournemouth at home next 6. But be warned, it does in game week 16. It just turns into an absolute horror show when they've got Liverpool, Man City. So if you've got
Brighton after that,
so you're making problems for yourself because you're not going to want triple Palace defence against that. And I think they got Brighton after that actually in game week 18. So that's even worse.
And then they got Chelsea, and then they got Brentford.
Yeah.
Who can obviously
so I would say if you've got Johnston and Anderson, just be happy with that and look elsewhere.
Yeah, because I looked at. I'm thinking if there is a problem with Cash, because he obviously went off with this shoulder injury. I don't think it's too serious, but if it was, I was looking at other defenders and how I might be able to look at them. And I did, for a moment, consider a Palace double up, but then I did think game week 16, that's going to cause problems because neither of them are playable. And then if you own a player like Charlie Taylor as well, that's another defensive move. And I'd rather, if I can, be getting these defenders in, could play for quite a long time. I can just move my transfers further forward. But definitely. Yeah. It's just that fixture swing is pretty brutal for Palace, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks everyone for joining us in the live chat. Thanks for all your questions. Sorry for those we didn't have time to answer, but hopefully during the show we answered those sorts of questions. We tried our best. But do remember to press that like button as ever, and do remember to subscribe. And do remember to join us next week. We'll have new goals imminent tables ready for game week 13. We'll see how we got on in game week 12. Also, myself and Tom will be back either tonight or tomorrow. I'm not sure when it will be scheduled for, but we're going to record it shortly. Our team reveal video. So we'll find out about our week, our moves, who we're going to be captaining, and also our plans. This is going to have a special focus on the worst away teams to defend, and so we'll see basically the teams to target, the juicy home games that you want, particularly for your captains in the next few matches. So we'll have a special focus on that. Do watch out for that. Thanks again. I'll see you soon, Tom, in about 4 seconds when we record that. But we'll see everyone else next week at Goals Imminent, and also see you in video and podcast form for our team reveal. Thanks a lot for your time. See you soon.
Thanks, Joe.